Great, thank you. I would like to call this meeting to order. This is San Francisco Elections Commission regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 19, 2020. It is 6:02 p.m. My name is Viva Murphy, and I would like to call this meeting to order. Roll call. Vice President Bernhold.
Here.
Commissioner
Here.
Hill. Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Here.
Commissioner Jordanek.
Here.
Commissioner Jung.
Here, I'll just shout, this is my mic today.
Oh, wow. Commissioner Rowe.
Here.
Okay, we have met quorum, and I would like to move forward with item number 2, general public comment. General public comment on any issue within the Elections Commission's general jurisdiction that is not covered by another item on this agenda. Is there any general public comment today? Okay, seeing none. Item number 3, approval of minutes of previous meeting. Discussion and possible action to approve minutes for the August 21, 2019 and September 18th, 2019 Elections Commission meeting. I want to note that for some reason and so I'll just say this publicly, I could not find the August 21st meeting online to review the minutes, like the actual recording. So I emailed Commissioner Jordanek last night. It was kind of late, so just want to see if I can get that so I could finish that. So that's not in your agenda packet. What is in your agenda packet will be September 18, 2019 Elections Commission meeting minutes. So I also sent that kind of later, earlier this morning, so I don't know if everyone had a chance to review that.
I move to approve the minutes of the September 18, 2019 meeting.
Great, thank you.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Chung. All right, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, public comment is closed. We'll take roll call for this item. Commissioner, Vice President Bernhold.
Yes. Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordanek.
Yes.
Commissioner Jung.
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe.
Yes.
Myself, yes. And so, do we have to take, no we don't, sorry. The motion passes, carries. Item number.
Can I just say one thing?
Okay, yes.
I do have the audio for that.
Oh, you do?
So
So could you share that with me? Thank you. I appreciate it. I just probably couldn't find it on the website. That could have been my own technical lack of knowledge, so I apologize for that. And I will have that for the next agenda item, for the next meeting. Item number 4, open source voting, discussion and possible action regarding the City and County of San Francisco's open source voting system project. We'll start with Commissioner's report. Commissioner Jordanek?
Okay, so I'm not sure I have anything to report aside from what was discussed at TAC, so I will just
Should we
wait for
move
that.
forward with the TAC report?
Actually, I do have one thing to mention on the Commissioner's report item. So at the last meeting, I had reported that a body from Santa Clara County had passed a motion in support of collaborating with San Francisco on the open source voting project. And we had discussed wanting to hear feedback from Director Drill and Director Arntz on that, whether they've reached out to them. And I've since heard a little bit more. They said that they would be interested to know what it would look like to collaborate with San Francisco. So I encouraged them to get in touch with Director Drill and Director Arntz. And I'm not sure if they have gotten in touch yet, but just so people know, they're actively, they would like to know, what it would look like to collaborate with San Francisco. So that's all I have to report on the Commissioner's report portion.
Okay, great. And then the Technical Advisory Committee report, Commissioner Jordanek?
Yeah, I thought we were going to have a TAC member here today, but I don't see member, committee member Katow here. So I will just give a brief report on what we discussed. We did meet last week, and we, oh, he's just entering.
Oh, sorry for being late.
Right on time.
Is it my turn already?
Yeah, just literally seconds ago we were just,
Have you given your update already?
not for tech.
Okay.
Come on up,
Yeah, thank you for coming.
if you're ready.
If you're ready, if you need a minute, we can move on to the next item. I mean, not next item, but just maybe do director's report first.
Sure. Is it,
Yeah, well,
is it your,
Should we just-
I can speak to it.
okay.
Sorry, I thought the report would be before my report, that's fine, thank you. So we met last week, and as you'll see in your agenda packet, we adopted a very short, resolution this time, relating to the Department of Technology's, project, to do with their, RLA pilot. We were supposed to get a presentation from, Benedita from Voting Works. He couldn't make it unfortunately, so we'll hear from him another time. But he was gonna go talk to us about some of the stuff they're working on in Voting Works, which includes, RLA software called Arlo. So we, in the absence of a presentation from, Mr. Dia, we still had his presentation slides, and we looked around it on our own, and we come up with a recommendation that, the DT project to do with RLA should look into, integrating the work with Arlo, because, DT is doing groundbreaking work in terms of doing an RLA for ranked choice elections, which was not a thing that mathematicians had even figured out how to do until about a year ago. But at the same time, Arlo is sort of shaping up to be the successor to the Colorado project for RLA software, and it's trying to be sort of the software for doing RLAs in open source. So we hope that some collaboration can be done there, that DT doesn't have to invent too many wheels as they try to productionize this and try to build like a better interface than some duct tape together Jupyter notebooks for this, which obviously the first version of duct tape is always how it works. I'm a software engineer myself. I'm not trying to criticize it at all. But as they try to make it nicer, we recommend they look into that. That aside, I don't remember anything super important or relevant we talked about at the meeting, but Commissioner John can fill in anything I missed. And I'm sorry for being a bit unprepared out there this guy.
Yeah, well, I can add a few things, and while I'm speaking, maybe you can think to see if there's anything else. But I know one of the thing about Arlo, this open source software, is that Voting Works received a grant from the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. So this is a project that already has federal money behind it. So as Member Katow said, we wouldn't want San Francisco to duplicate work that's already on the roadmap and being paid for. And then, so Voting Works is going to be at our meeting in April. And we also voted at last week's meeting to invite the people that wrote the letter to the Commission and Departments of Elections and Technology, OSES, so we could just basically discuss with them the contents of their letter and learn a bit, probe a little bit more. And so that was the only things I can think of.
Yeah, I guess we'll just add that I think you all got the same letter last month that we got. We read it and were reasonably intrigued, but also felt that we wanted to know more details before we really, like, make up our minds or make a judgment about it. And so we voted to invite them to discuss it.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move forward with director's report. So Dr. Arndt or Dr. Drow. We could hear the budget together for the open source voting. If was that just still on from last meeting? Or is this something that you'll be discussing today as well?
I'll be discussing budget today.
Okay, great.
So we have a number of things to talk about today. First, as we mentioned before several times, we do finally have the draft of the state-of-the-art briefing on open source systems and projects helping inform the conversation around open source. You'll remember the leadership questions that we have been tasked to answer is around what is already out there and available, who could possibly be partners, how would certification happen, and what would be cost. So this little document, state-of-the-art briefing, we're going to go through, and that's something that Laurent will share with you. Then I am prepared to talk about the memo that came from TAC to the Elections Commission. I have responses to that, so I'll be happy to respond in writing. And then I've also provided you with a copy of the COIT request, and I'll go through what that looks like and where we are on that. So I'm going to turn it over to Laurent.
Good evening. Do I need to spell my name again?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Sandrolini. So the first comment I would have before we start our presentation is we absolutely would welcome collaboration with Voting Works. If they can take our code and make them better, great. So I don't know if you want me to participate in those discussions, but I'd be happy to, if that's helpful. The one thing that you need to know though is Benedict's entire algorithm comes from Professor Stark. And Professor Stark is a big enemy of ballot marking devices. And it just happens to be that Benedicta is working on prototyping ballot marking devices. So the relationship might be a little thin right now. But as far as our code is concerned, which again is mostly Professor Stark, we'll be happy. It's open source. If they want to take it, absolutely. We'll be happy to work with them on potential enhancement that we have identified. Also, so that you know, when we run the pilot, the UI might not be great, but we did 200 ballots in less than an hour. As a plan B, Corla, which is Arlo, they actually failed. They could not actually process them all. So having said that, I'm going to go through the presentation of the open source projects and what we believe are, and again, there's probably a lot of comments that we're going to, if you want to participate in another round of finessing this presentation and this document, you'll be more than welcome to provide that input. But ultimately, it's a review what we believe are the key larger open system or non-commercial voting system that have been around. Right?
Can I just say something? Would you prefer that we hold all of our questions until the end of your presentation, or should we interrupt you?
However you like.
Let's do that, because I want to make sure that, yeah.
Okay. So I think I don't need to spend a lot of time discussing what an open source voting system project is. But ultimately, the ability for the public to look at the result of the election, potentially look at the code that actually was used to generate the results, all the way to potentially auditing the devices and the software that makes up the devices, including the firmware. So that's the spectrum, but also there's also the concept of a non-commercial voting system, which is, we'll talk about the LA BSAP solution, which arguably is not an open source system, but it is a non-commercial system, and the ownership of the code is the sole property of LA County. But it's the first entire voting system that is non-commercial in the market today, right? Soup to nuts, from tally to ballot marking device to registration to all of the different things. So the method we used to look at the different projects going on was a typical type of look into GitHubs, try to figure out on different metrics the amount of commits, the amount of contributors, the ability for that project to gather momentum by gathering more and more people contributing to the source code. And then what we did, which is not in this presentation, we've actually compared that to, some open source projects are nothing to do with election, more closely from an industry perspective, aligned to that. And the best one we could find is surveys, right? And we looked at the survey space and we found out that the contribution for open source survey projects is a magnitude higher than any of the open source election projects currently going on. So the system that we looked at are listed on slide 4. No need to go through that. I'll hit one by one unless you have questions. So of course the first one, again, arguably not an open source system, but it is non-commercial, so that's why it made the list. It's the Los Angeles system. As you probably read in the news, it was certified by the state. There was a lot of discussion about that, but ultimately it has been certified and will be used in the November election. It has been used already for vote by mail, but the launch in November is going to be all the way from the voting centers to the BND and of course the vote by mail. So the entire election process will go through this newly certified system. As you know, we have retained Gartner consulting firm to help us understand what type of partnership potentially could be had between San Francisco and LA. And that work is in the process. We're not finished yet, or Gartner is not finished yet, but we expect to have a good document pretty soon. Right? Okay. Any question on the SAP or the LA voting system?
This is really, I would rather just go through the
All right, no
presentation,
worries.
thanks, because then
I'm sorry,
I just don't want to keep
forgot
getting
say
lost.
that. So Free and Fair and Galois is probably of all the different systems, the one that's the most active in the open source. And again, that's an opinion, but it's all backed by the GitHub commit and the contributors to the projects. They also have secured some serious funding from DARPA, and of course they also have a relationship with Microsoft. And so, as a triangulation, I believe the core competency is really around cryptography and basically verifying the vote around the ballot marking devices. And so, probably something I should say is, again, the risk limited audit that is listed here in 2017 is no longer a Galois project. This was a fallout between Colorado and Free and Fair, and the code basically was passed on to Voting Works, which is now became Arlo. So Cora is now Arlo, and it still doesn't work. And they're working on a private and commercial project with Microsoft and DARPA. Another company that's into cryptography is Democracy Earth, and their specific program for that is called Sovereign. If I understand correctly, the reason for leaving is around blockchain. And so they want to have a blockchain technology that will assist in the voter registration. And their premise is that anonymous voting does not allow to verify that only one person can vote. And so they're going at the problem by basically using blockchain and the general ledger to make sure that only one person, not one person, one vote. But I think as a result of that, I'm not sure if the identity is still safeguarded. And that's something I can't really tell from what is publicly available. Condorcet, again, that's just, it's in there because it is a voting system, but it's nothing that will ever make it to, well, I should never say that, but unlikely to make it into a robust city, county, state type of voting system. It's an internet voting system. It has great use for what it's supposed to do. Trust the Vote is another interesting company in the open source system. They're mostly known for the acronym OSAT, which is the Open Source Election Technology. And they are developing a suite of open source software called Elect OS. And from what we can tell, so all of the prior vendor, I speak, so vendor is probably the wrong way to put it, but all of the prior technology I discussed, it's mostly a component, right? They try to figure out a component that can help election. Trust the Vote is actually trying to build an entire system, or at least spec, that will actually be able to be run soup to nuts an entire election. And so that includes registration, tallying, and so on and so forth. So Voting Works, which I believe you will meet next week, so their bread and butter is the RLA, and so they have an open source RLA, but they actually charge for it, right? So depending on the size of the registration of voters, that's the way they charge. You can run an audit through Voting Works, and they will charge you, I think, don't quote me on that, I think 15,000 is the lowest amount, and then it goes up from there to run the rest of the audit, right? So they've been just trying to find a way to make money, and that's the first evidence of them trying to commercially provide risk mitigating audit. And again, we'd love the ability to work with them, but again, I'll warn you, their technology is actually fairly outdated. As a matter of fact, the algorithms that are being used are outdated as well. But it is what you can actually commercially buy today. If San Francisco wanted to do a risk mitigating audit on the non-ranked choice voting, you could contract with Voting Works, and for a fee they will produce an audit. But the other thing, and I don't know how much of that is public domain, but our understanding is they're working, well actually, it's on their website, it should be public domain, I think they're working on prototype ballot marking devices. And so, again, the city itself, until further notice, we're not a big user of ballot marking devices. I don't know if I've got the numbers, we have 1 or 2 per precinct to allow for disability access. Yes, sorry. So 1, sorry, don't get a question. Yeah, 1. And I don't believe there's a plan within San Francisco to have a global change in our election. We're also using BMD. But to the extent that we will, there will be a company to look at. Follow My Vote is another blockchain technology. I think voting is one of the things they want to go after, but it's not the only thing they want to go after. And again, it's a cryptography play around using cryptography blockchain, which again creates a general ledger and a path to everything that happens throughout the process. It's a highly simplified version of blockchain. Election Guard, this is Microsoft. So Microsoft is in partnership with Galois, which has, remember, the DARPA contract for cryptography. Election Guard is an open source SDK, a software development kit that people can use to, again, their core competency or their core focus is verifying election. And so it's also tied to ballot marking devices. So the ability for the ballot marking device and the identity of the person to still remain anonymous while confirming that that vote took place. So it includes software, code, reference, verifier, and a ballot marking device implementation, which is basically a white paper architecture for that. And then the last one is Star Vote, which is the Travis County clerk, but that project basically failed. And they ended up procuring a commercial system that supposedly met all the requirements that Star Vote was supposed to accomplish. So this was probably the most the most public failed implementation of the open source project as it relates to election. And as I said, feedback is welcome. I know we don't have, for example, the ranked choice voting tabulator from John Moldover. But again, these are specific discrete components. They don't actually make an entire solution. But if you'd like to add those in there, we absolutely would welcome the input for that.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I have some questions. Let's see, starting with LA County, just to correct one comment you made, my understanding is that it wasn't certified, but it was conditionally certified?
Yeah,
And
so that's correct. And this is the first time they actually went through a full certification, and it's not unusual for a system of that size to be certified with condition. So yes, there's condition to the certification, that's correct.
Yeah, and just so people understand, there were a number of mitigations that the Secretary of State requested of Los Angeles County. Like one of the mitigations is because it's an all ballot marking device system where every voter has to interact with the computer, the Secretary of State made the requirement that every voting center also provide blank ballots for voters so that voters can mark ballots by hand. But those blank ballots literally are blank ballots where the voter has to write in the candidate name on every ballot if they don't want to use the ballot marking device. So is that correct in your understanding?
I know they had conditions, there are probably more than one.
Yeah.
I'll trust you seem like you know what we're talking about, so I'm not going
Yeah.
to challenge it.
Yeah, so,
But we have been, we're in contact with Garner, and so we can get a lot of information that hopefully is public domain about all the conditions that they have to, they have to meet to, we can get, hopefully, as long as it's public domain, we can get it for this.
yeah, and then so I had one more question about LA County and then a couple others, but this point you hit on about being an all BMD county, that's really important for us.
Yes.
And I want to know, have you discussed with the Department of Elections whether that would be an acceptable model for San Francisco? Because if we're thinking about collaborating with LA County, and LA County is doing an all BMD system, I'm wondering if those requirements are even a fit. So have you talked about that?
Yeah, so again, we're not finished with the Garner assessment, right? So, can I talk to the original? So, there's different options, is all I can say, right? And so one option could be, vote by mail, another option, so LA is a very different structure than San Francisco. Not only the BMD, we also have the voting centers, right? And so, we're basically working with Garner, right, to figure out what's the best partnership model, right? Other parts or whole, one part, and so on and so forth, but that work has been completed.
Yeah, well, so, but putting aside LA County and just looking at it from the perspective of what are San Francisco's requirements, have you found out whether San Francisco, again, just separate from LA County, would San Francisco be okay with a model that is all ballot marking devices? Or do you think, or is your understanding that San Francisco wants to continue with primarily
Yeah,
hand
I
marked?
can't really speak to that because I don't run the elections, so I don't know that. I think the question is for John, I guess.
Well, I guess I'm asking, have you talked with the department about that question?
Yes, we have talked along with Garner Group, to the election department and trying to understand again the best partnership fit. And therefore, as a result of that, right, the election department gave information to Garner as to, what is it that we do, how many devices we use, and so on and so forth. And we had a discussion about different things, but again, we're nowhere near the ability to actually give you, the full result of the Garner assessment because it's still in progress.
Okay,
So
well,
we had that discussion.
I mean, it's not so much the partnership, it's more just a question about, and maybe I could just ask you, Director Ernst, have you decided whether you would like to retain the ability for voters to mark their ballots by hand at the precinct in the future, or is that still up in the air for you?
Well, these are different questions. So, what Laurent is saying is that there's an LA system that has different components, different pieces, and what part of those pieces could San Francisco adopt, which would be open source. So, that's the Garner report. As far as the city, if it were to change from a paper base, which I would assume would always be paper at either the polling places or the voting centers, that's something that would be up to the mayor and the board
Okay.
to decide. It's not something that I site. But again, as Laurent said several times, there's several different pieces of the LA system. So the ballot marking devices are one aspect. There's also vote by mail. And now potentially there's going to be a paper-based side to that system too as the system moves forward in time and the Secretary of State has a dialogue regarding use of that system. So these questions aren't final at all.
Okay, yeah, I think it might be worth trying to get clarity on the answers before you try to do too many different scenarios, just like independent of LA. So then, my next question is onto something other than LA County. What, you said a few times that Arlo, like, doesn't work. What did you mean by that? Did you try it, or?
Yeah, we had a pilot, in November. We started at 10, I don't know if it's like, I forgot, because I was really sick, but we run the pilot for an hour with our pilot, with the software that Professor Stark and others built. And we went through 200 ballots in less than an hour, which if you've ever done a risk review audit, I really look at that performance and how efficient the UI was, because that's a lot of ballots to audit. And that's, by the way, 2 pair of eyes looking at the ballot at all times, right? With verification twice on the system to make sure that what they see is confirmed twice, but 2 different people, right? And so what that was done in less than an hour, and my understanding is, I left because I was really sick, but my understanding is we had another pilot for using Arlo, and it failed. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, what do you mean by that? Because like Voting Works, I know they're actually using Arlo for other states, and it's working there, so why?
I don't know, I wasn't there. All I know is it didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the networking of the system, but it wasn't able to accommodate the cast vote record in relation to the hand counting of the paper ballots, whereas the system that Laurent organized for last November, the cast vote record and the paper ballots were in sync throughout the entire process, and they matched. Whereas Arlo it wasn't tracking.
Yeah.
I don't know the reasons for it.
Yeah, I think maybe what it sounds like you're saying is that it doesn't support that use case, maybe.
I don't know, I know a significant difference as to why our system is a lot faster, is because when you audit the ballots, we can take the ballots in any order and give it to the auditors in any orders, right? Where in the case of Arlo, we actually have to stack exactly how the software wants the ballot to be audited, right? So just picking the ballots from the warehouse and organizing it into exactly how the sequence is for the software is one of the reasons it takes a long time.
Okay, and then Director Ernst, how many registered voters does San Francisco have?
Precisely.
Or just on the order, is it
Yes,
400,000 or?
precisely.
503,649.
Or is it more?
As of this morning.
What is it?
Sorry.
503,000.
Okay, yeah, so on Voting Works' website, it says the fee would be $5,000 for one time.
Oh, okay, $5,000.
And $15,000 for a year.
Oh, okay, yeah, thank you for correcting that.
And then my only other comment is, I did read a couple of days ago that Voting Works did a pilot of their ballot marking device in Wisconsin, which uses Election Guard.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not like a fan of Voting Works or anything, but it's just something I read.
Yeah, they're progressing, that's true.
Yeah, so, but I think this document is a great improvement over what we saw a few months ago. I think there was a draft maybe over the summer.
Okay.
So I appreciate
I'd
the
like
work
to
you.
do it, but thank you.
Okay, well, you're presenting it now, so to your department. Thank you.
That's it?
There are other commissioners, yes, so Commissioner Chen.
Well, I know you're not taking credit for this document, but I just wanted you to know, and you maybe to pass on to your team how useful this summary is.
Yeah.
Great.
So I
Great.
applaud your team for putting this
Very
together.
appreciate it. Thank
Very
you.
useful, and if I could ask, if you haven't already, if you could submit the electronic copy to the president so that it can be part of the record too, so the public can take a look at it.
Yeah.
And just one question, which is that you summarize, you kind of give a comparison of different non-commercial voting systems.
Right.
on page 7 of 43 of the
Yes,
report.
that's correct.
And you evaluate by open source activity the different,
Yes.
the different projects.
Yes, and I believe, actually I did that, I'll take credit for
All
that.
right.
Page 7.
Page 7.
Nice job. I like it.
And so, this is a discussion actually that we had with Garner in trying to figure out, and that was a good suggestion on their part, it's difficult to implement, but try to figure out what other open source projects, that are as close as we can be to election, right? And then what other open source software projects, kind of on the big side, right? So you got two categories in there. One is, as I said, the survey, the survey monkey, and I forgot the name of the company that is in there, that provides survey, which again is as close to voting as you can get. And then there's, kind of ERP type of package, like much larger implementation, but the amount of, people contributing to those projects is vastly larger than the open source community, to some exception, but yes. So that's kind of why we do the comparison.
Well, here's the question.
Yes.
I don't know what the scope of the report was. It wasn't clear to me from the executive summary, but have you or your team been able to form any preliminary conclusions or opinions on what, on the viability of these different partnerships?
So that's interesting. So that's another discussion we had actually, which is what is viable, right? So viable as in, there's a lot of people that contribute to the projects, there's a lot of commits, kind of open source metrics, right? So you could look at it as viable that way. And most of this document is really based on that metric, or that access to the metrics, right? One that is not at all is viable as in, hasn't been used in any kind of shape or form at scale by, different organizations, right? And there, again, we go back to, there's very little viability of those projects from a scale perspective, right? You're gonna find one, so there's one in Wisconsin, there's one in Michigan, there's one here, there's one there, but no one has taken, there's no red hat of open source voting election, right? There's not one vendor that somehow, dominate the field and has a large presence in the market. So I don't answer your question, but viability to us means two things. It's the technology viability by the contribution, but then there's also the, is it viable as a company, are they actually making indents into their respective market?
Well, I just use viable because that's the phrase you use.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think it was two words that, and I forgot it, but basically, yeah, viable could mean two different things in that case.
Okay.
So I didn't mean to correct you, I'm just saying, it's an interesting word because it has, a couple of dimensions to that.
So when do you anticipate the Gardner report to be ready? March. Thank you.
And then you'll be able to come in and provide a thank you.
So actually something occurred to me. There are two projects I don't see listed here. One is one of them is referenced in our tech recommendations that we forwarded on to. It's the Universal RCB tabulator, which was certified for federal use in Michigan.
In Michigan, that's right.
And that's just a part of it, but it's a part we need. And then also there's the results report that TAC has been working in that we're actively developing according to San Francisco's specs. So those might be worth including as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be happy to. And by the way, so that you understand, the risk screening audit pilot actually has a tabulator in it because we have to match the Castlewood record to, that's what Arlo failed, by the way. I think that's what John was saying. Is matching the Castlewood record to the actual, all the algorithm and all that to work. So that's in the pilot, and we'd also be happy to see if we can separate that and make that, contribute to a ranked choice voting tabulator or whatever, right? And the results as well. We have to be able to match every report, right, that John, or the election department produced during the last election. And I think when I was here last time, I said we kind of catch up at around 6, or I forgot which one already. But after that, every report that we result, every result we reported with the audit system, was 1-for-1 exact match to what John was reporting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Okay, thank you so much.
So are there going to be presentations for the other documents as well? Or?
Director Terrell's
Oh,
coming,
she's
I'm gonna
coming
give
up.
her a minute to come up.
Yes, I'm here, I'm Terrell, Director of Technology. So just viable, feasible, usable, all good words. So I think what the goal was to inventory. We understand that there isn't anything that is end-to-end, which is what is important about San Francisco's efforts. But with everything, there is cost and time. So if things are not in a state that are usable, I love that word, then that's something that we were trying to understand. Very difficult to measure. But remember, the path we're on is what's available, who's a partner, what's the funding, how do you pull that all together. So if you, from the inventory, find someone that is a good partner and also knows something in that inventory, then that starts to be something that might be feasible. So that's kind of these steps that we're going through, these gates that we're going through. As Laurent mentioned, we're happy to take more comments, and we'll put them in the back in the appendix so everybody has a chance to contribute and be heard. So the next topic I mentioned is our response attack from the recommendations of next steps for open source voting systems. This was a letter sent to the Elections Commission, and I've just replied. The Department of Elections may have some other comments, but this is the Department of Technology's response. So the first item in the recommendations was about a project website, proposed project information, monthly status reports, current project plans, and information about the RLA pilot project with code links, and any products such as white papers and reports. We can do this. This is all very doable. Currently, this information is in the Election Commission report, but we can consolidate it onto one website. But I have been providing these documents as part of my presentations at the commission meetings. Number 2, project plans. Develop and keep project plans for various funding scenarios to help advocates request funding at the state and attract partners. So I think it's important to understand what we know at this point in time. We do know that a complete system will cost $24 to $35 million plus ongoing support. What we don't know is, does a partner exist? What would a partner provide? Code or resources or funding? What compromises will the city make to lower costs? Will the city change business processes to use the system? Will the state certify the system? How will the system be maintained? And what is the total cost of ownership over 10 years? So it's very difficult to have funding options and scenarios. It's the universe. So unless you start to say there are some givens, there are some things that we will not change, but at this point in time, it's a green field, and we are open to all options. We want to stay open to all options because that would give us an ability to select the best option for the city. Number 3, prioritizing components. Prioritizing work on system components that are essential and would replace proprietary non-open source voting components. I think it's very important to remember that the Dominion system has been certified by the state as a single system. Components cannot be added or removed without requiring recertification by Dominion. So we are working on open source components that can be used with any system. So our tax dollars that are funding this project are not wasted while we investigate partners. This includes the RLA product that we used on the last election. And we are also researching and piloting open source identity management tools for disabled voters as requested by the Mayor's Disability Council. So we are moving forward with open source components that would not touch the Dominion system, would not require recertification, so that as we move forward and we deliver product, it can be a good use of taxpayer dollars. Number 4 was hire a technical lead, hire a new technical resources with experience in developing open source projects, and we can do this. When we have a partner in funding for system development, we will hire staffing to do the engineering, design, build, test, support, documentation, training, and project management. To help manage where we are right now in the current projects, we've been using DT, technical project managers, part-time, at a minimum level to keep our costs low. Dialogue with TAC was number 5. Allow a representative of DT or elections to discuss technical issues with TAC on a regular basis. I want to make sure that is perceived that the Department of Technology is leaning in as much as we can. DT has prepared for the Elections Commission and TAC monthly status reports with findings and completed actions. DT has consistently included members of TAC when technical information or considerations were discussed in meetings at DT. DT is not part of TAC's software programming effort for a report writer, so I don't see us being involved in that. At this point in time, and in agreement with elections, DT is proceeding with completing the RLA and beginning the pilot of identity management for disabled voters. So on our roadmap, on our work streams, these are the things that we're working on and investing in funding. Number 6, pilot open source RVC tabulator. Pilot using the open source RVC tabulator that was federally certified and used in East Point, Michigan. As described before, the Dominion system was certified as a complete system, and a different tabulation tool cannot be integrated without support from Dominion and recertification from the state. What I would suggest is maybe the owner of the tabulator might want to move this process forward by submitting to the state for certification, possibly looking forward to design or engineer the data integrations to determine if security can be maintained, document the integration, functional design and requirements. So I think there's work that could be done to make it more readily available, but at this point in time, doing a pilot project with something that we couldn't use is not on our roadmap. Open source RVC tabulator certification. Work with the Secretary of State to see what it takes to get the open source tabulator certified for use, and that's really what I was talking about in item number 6, was really that needs to move forward. If it was federally certified, then it should move on to state certification. Number 8, pilot open source results reporter. Pilot using TAC's open source results reporter in the November 2020 election. Again, the Dominion software includes a results reporter. A different report writer would have to be incorporated into the Dominion system by Dominion and gain recertification. That's not to say you shouldn't do it. TAC could use post-election data files to present the results in the reporter. This is a similar process used by the RLA pilot, which used data files after the election for testing. And what we learned in that process, which is that there's much more work to be done to use RLA for precinct ballots, and the system must be user-friendly for non-programmer use, which is what needs to be developed. So if the results reporter has been tested on election results, and there are lessons learned for full implementation, that could be documented and level of effort determined to develop planning for completion. Open source software contest. Use a set of ballot card pictures from the November elections. Conduct a contest to develop open source software to check the vote totals. A contest could be done to develop vote checking software. That's very possible. DT is currently working on the RLA project as a verification tool for ballot counting. So there's always lots of ways to get the same amount of work done, and we're pretty clear work streams that we're investing in right now. So I hope these answers help TAC and the commission in what the direction is with the Department of Technology. Any questions?
Yeah, I have some comments and questions. So, just starting with the number 5 dialogue with TAC. I mean, I think what we're really getting at there is having someone represent the department at our meetings so we can kind of discuss in a more open forum some of these issues, because as I'm going to get into with some of these cards, slides, a lot of there's some nuances around these issues that are kind of take time to delve into, and it's it would be easier if we're able to kind of discuss these in more detail before, you know, things are finalized in this way. So I'm just saying it would help to be able to actually, because I don't know if I think the last time that someone from DT came to one of our meetings was maybe over the summer. Yeah, so I'll just get into a few of the issues. Like number 3, prioritizing components. What we were getting at there is while the RLA is like it's a good thing to have, and the identity management for disabled voters is also a good thing to have, neither of those is actually a part of a voting system by California's definition. So what reading this slide tells me is that we're not actually working on the voting system at all, because we're working on these things that are outside of the voting system. So it's a little disappointing because, you know, the Board of Supervisors and the Commission's original resolutions were to collaborate on an open source voting system. Neither of these 2 initiatives fall within that scope. So that's kind of that was kind of the reason for that recommendation, to maybe refocus some of the energies on parts that are actually a part of the voting system. And for number...
Can I respond?
Yes.
So with all due respect, voting system is the complete voting system. So to me, allowing disabled voters to be able to, 94,000 people, to be able to use their devices at home to be able to vote is helping build a voting system and provide access, and is a very important thing for what we heard strongly from our community outreach. And as far as the RLA goes, I don't think there's anything more important, and all of our documents to date have talked about transparency, fairness, and accuracy, and competence in the voting process and the voting system. Nothing more important than the RLA to do that. We've done both these projects with open source tools. So your definition, which may be the tabulator or the ballot marking device, I'm looking at the greater scope of what an election system needs to encompass. That's my definition.
Okay, well, neither of those 2 things reduce the amount of proprietary code that we're currently using, because with both of these initiatives, we're continuing to use all of the proprietary Dominion voting system that we paid $2 million a year for. So
The
I
scope has never been to say that an objective, I have yet to see an objective that says we should not, our goal is to eliminate the voting system, right? So we're talking about using open source software for elections. So to the maximum extent that we can do that, that's the goal. So we don't know yet what that even looks like. And we don't have funding to do that, we know. And we're trying to prove the point that we can use open source tools, that we know what the universe looks like, that there are partners in play, and then with those boxes checked, hopefully be able to go forward with funding. So the alternative to that is investing in a component that would not be certified by Dominion, would not be integrated with Dominion, and would not so then we have just wasted taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, well, this is the point that I think it would be a lot better to discuss it at a TAC meeting, because this is kind of like a more technical issue of how do you integrate with the proprietary system without infringing on the point you're making, because there are ways that you could use an open source component alongside a Dominion component without affecting the fact that the Dominion system is certified. You could use it in
It
parallel.
would still have to be, if you're using it for the state, for an election, it would have to be certified by the state.
Yeah, and the state has already shown that it's willing to certify components. Like for Los Angeles County, it certified a system that's only for tallying vote by mail ballots, independent of the ballot marking device. So these are kind of some of the more technical scenarios that I think it would be able to help to sit down with you or a representative to kind of more hash out some of the details. But so I want to move on to the number 8, the open source results reporter. And you're saying that the Secretary of State has certified the Dominion software, but the system that TAC is working on is replacing something that the department wrote, and that's not a part of the Dominion software. It's software that is written in PHP that's used to display the results generated by the Dominion system. So as far as I know, the code that the department wrote and that it's using to display the results on election night is not certified by the Secretary of State. And that's the code that we're talking about replacing.
Just putting it up on the website?
Yeah, it's just displaying.
All right, well that's, I think has that been tested in, with the last election results?
Yeah, we have a demo online. So we just kind of want to have a
So then
dialogue.
Go do that.
What?
So then go do that.
We did, but
So-
we're waiting for we need a dialogue, a two-way, like with.
But what do you expect, what's your expectation of the Department of Technology on that?
So we would like to work with someone, either the Department of Elections or Department of Technology, to share with TAC what are the functionalities that are missing that would allow the department to use this to replace something that's currently not open source with something that is open source. And it would add a lot more features to the results. Like today.
Oh, I see, like the RLA, I'm sorry, like the RLA and the disability. Okay,
No.
good.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then the last point is about the RCV tabulator, and this is kind of a similar thing. There's no reason that, even though the Dominion system is certified as a whole, there's no reason that we couldn't, in parallel, use an open source RCV tabulator to check the Dominion result, and I actually would like to receive confirmation from the Secretary of State that the department wouldn't be allowed to use a system in conjunction with the Dominion system, because I think they might be open to that. So I think it's just worth getting confirmation on some of these points before saying it just can't be done. So anyways, I do very, very much appreciate the fact that you responded to all the recommendations, but it would be nice to be able to kind of get deeper with some of these things. Okay, thank you.
I guess I'd just like to ask if it's, it sounds, Director Jill, that you believe that having somebody at TAC meetings is, you mentioned in here how you were engaging TAC, but it sounds like Commissioner Judonic is asking for a more open conversation at TAC meetings. Is there some other method that would be better, or are you saying that it sounds like that's not something that you're open to?
I think what is important is, for me to understand is what is the ask, right? What is the business problem we're trying to solve? What is the ask from the Department of Technology? So I've been very clear about what our work streams are and what we're working on. There are times I cannot attend because of commitments. So if I can attend, I will try. But at the same time, I don't personally have an ability to help them with their programming and their work that they're working on. So I think that's just take city resources to help them.
So, but to your point that you have your work streams, so if it was a focused conversation on those work streams, that would there be a way to engage around those? Would that be helpful?
If the work streams are in line with what I believe is the direction and the way we need to expend funds in this area, yes, I can help them with that.
We're not, just to be clear, we're not asking for help, we're asking for, we wanna help you. I mean, we wanna be able to kind of, you know, discuss some of these issues.
Okay.
I'd like to, see if I understood what you were saying, because I'm not sure it's coming through in some of the other commissioner comments. What I thought you were expressing was sort of the budget reality of working within government. You have limited funds, tell me if I'm wrong on any of this, I'm really trying to understand that, that you have limited funds, and then part of the way you get money within a government, that is very careful with taxpayer dollars, is to prove yourself in a way that is functional and beneficial to the government from whom you're asking money from. And what I've understood you saying is that the RLA and the identity management for disabled voters are two discrete entities, two discrete areas where you can develop something that doesn't already exist and that can actually be used because it doesn't need that recertification with the existing Dominion system. And so, again, I'm kind of summarizing here.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But I think you're dealing with the practical reality of trying to get something done and trying to actually prove the case to the people for whom you need a much bigger funding by actually doing something that's useful and that they can show to their voters that this was a great thing that we did and it worked and it provided benefit. And you said you didn't want to be spending money on something that isn't active. This was, I wasn't exactly sure, correct me, but I think you said you didn't want to spend money on a component part of the existing Dominion system because it would be redundant and not of additional benefit to the city. And again, I'm assuming this is you with your expertise in government budgeting. And I think sometimes we as a commission overlook that in our very strong desire to get an open source system. We run into the practical reality of what it's like to be a department head within the government. And so I'm gathering that I didn't misunderstand you, and maybe this was more just for the record to say, I hear you, and there are obviously different views, but I want to acknowledge that I understand that position that you're in.
Thank you. And what I have talked with Director Arnst about is that the RLA is very useful to the elections department. It's needed, it's state of the art. It's the only one in the country for ranked choice voting. And having support from the Mayor's Office of Disabilities is a very important thing. So if we're able to demonstrate success for key constituents in the Mayor's office, that helps.
And I assume that doesn't mean that you're suggesting you wouldn't
No.
like to do the whole system, but
Right,
it's
right.
just
Well, we
that
don't have the money.
you can't do that right now.
Right. We're not funded.
That's your goal, right, to
Right.
do the whole system.
And I will say that I hesitate to ask our director to spend more hours each month attending another evening meeting. I'm not sure that's the best use of your time, but I wonder if there's a compromise where, maybe you set up periodic meetings every other month. You set, 15, 20-minute meetings with the director or her representative, and you have your conversations that way rather than having directors, spend hours each month.
Yeah, or if I may add to that, then to be very, if it's aligned to your workflow and it's also that it's very specific and like taking it, one step at a time. I know that this response, which I really appreciate, I know it's also then a lot, and I feel like then it could follow up with a larger response and it goes back and forth, but as we kind of move forward, if we do want to keep taking steps forward, and there are some real technical questions, to then come back with, you know, a specific question that we can just kind of tackle. You know, because I know this has so far been just such a huge kind of report back, and I really appreciate all the kind of responses and time that you've taken to give us. So I do want to find a compromise as well. Also not have you attend another meeting as well, so.
So let me ask you, just in terms of restricting to the dialogue with TAC, are you, so you're not, it would not be, you would not want Laurent to attend the meeting just because he doesn't have time, is that?
Well, we can maybe switch on and off, we'll see.
Okay, and I think,
I don't require, my staff to attend evening meetings, I do it.
okay. And then Commissioner Jung, were you suggesting that, like a 15-20 minute meeting, were you suggesting outside tech meeting or during the tech meeting?
Yeah, outside, why not set a meeting rather than have the director spend hours of the evening for own time?
Yeah, I mean, if that's another option, I think, if that's would work better for you. I mean, if you can't commit to the evening meetings, maybe, you know, and another tech member could meet with you during business hours, and kind of representing the committee.
Okay, we can talk about it some more.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, so, we're very fortunate that Gartner we just got the draft today, we'll soon have, some information that will be very useful for moving forward. Will help form, I think, some alternatives, and, that's something to look forward to. But in the meantime, we need to put our budget requests forward. And hang on to your hats, we're gonna zoom through what is a COIT request. So the Committee on Information Technology is the governing body for investment in technology in the city, also for policy setting. They have very limited bias in most measures in the city. Budget, they receive 100 at least proposals, and they require a tremendous amount of information about the project, what you've done with the community, what the financials are, what your match is, what and how you're going to achieve your deliverables. So it's not enough to go in and say, I have a $10 million project. That's just laughable, right? So what you're seeing is the packet that I've submitted to them. I want to make sure, full transparency, you're going to see it all. I present this, what's today? Thursday?
Wednesday.
What is it? It's Wednesday? Okay, Thursday morning, I'm going to start that. Friday morning. Yeah, Friday morning I'll be presenting this as one of the 5 projects that the Department of Technology is taking forward to COIT. So this project is the only build project. All of my other projects, 4 others, are needed operational infrastructure projects, which I don't consider to be investments. I consider them to be operational expense. But the way the city funds work, they end up competing with investment projects. So I want you to understand the significance for the Department of Technology to take this forward as our only investment project for the city versus the operational projects we're taking forward. So I'm on this document that says open source voting, COIT budget request, Department of Technology, Department of Elections. I'll also view all these in digital, but it was everything I could do to get copies made today. So first, some of these slides are required, and so, first we talk about the project objective on slide 2. Slide 3 is problem definition, current state and future state, where we talk about the value that would be brought forward if we are able to build an open source election system. You'll see that I've started to kind of weave through some of our successes that we can point to, so we can say this is the plan, and we've already accomplished in-home voting for disabled residents and automating voter integrity with risk-limiting auditing software programs. So this gives me a way to talk about what we're accomplished with what the ask is. Slide 4, pretty straightforward, who the users are. Then we are required to provide activities to date. So in particular, on this project, we have been moving through the feasibility, project initiation, and plan and partners. The little lines in green are new this year, so we have held a community meeting. We have reviewed new open source tools and reviewed identity management tools. We have Gartner under contract to assess a partnership with LA. We've conducted an open source RLA on the November election. We've released the current state assessment. We will have the results of Gartner soon, so this will help inform the decisions. And they like to see progress. They like to see that the decision is informed. That's really key. On slide 6, open source election plan, just some phases, pretty high level on where we want to be. They only ask for this level of depth at this point in time. Slide 7 starts the request. So in this request, I wanted to make sure that we didn't confuse them with everything all at one time. So I broke it into pieces. So project 1 is the risk limiting audit program, and in the appendix I've included the slides that were not presented to you on what that program was and what the accomplishment was. So as far as phase 1, what has been completed, and phase 2, where we want to be able to support multi-contest auditing, do integration, enhance the UI, and make it so that it is easier for our staff to use. So there's tasks that go along with that first project. Second project on slide 8 is project partnership. So really, that project will be around developing that partnership and that agreement. Gartner Consulting, which is known in our industry as a leading consulting firm in this sort of work, and is an actual expert on the LA DSAP system. I'm hoping they will meet with me at the next meeting. You'll get to meet them and ask them tons of questions. They've been very helpful in really zeroing in on what the technology is and how it could potentially be used. So the fact that we have them informing the decision helps us as we move forward, that we're not doing this in isolation with our own ideas, that this is being vetted as we move forward with an industry expert. Project number 3 is the in-home voting for residents with disabilities. We did have our community workshop, and a large concern or primary concern was how to integrate or how to help people with disabilities vote from home. What it hinges on is something as simple as identity management. And my good heavens, there is technology now to make this happen. So to think that we could quickly solve this is really very exciting. So doing that design and engineering around how that would work, making sure we test it. We would certainly want the mayor's council on disabilities to help us with a little test group. There'd be some more outreach with on strategy that would help us make that all happen. So that's the 3rd project. The 4th project, of course, is the open source voting system development. really funding this project at an estimated level of 29 to $35 million. So there's one thing to say every year I'm gonna go in and ask for money. That is not necessarily the best way to complete a project. So, because there are always competing priorities. I mean, there could be an earthquake tomorrow, and then, you know, the whole money in the city goes. We have a lot of issues in the city where, I'm thinking that the best strategy here is to either ask for committed, set-aside money for a period of time, or ask for all of it up front to be put in reserve. It's called Mayor's Reserve. You draw it down as milestones are met. That's another way to do it. So I'm asking basically for Mayor's Reserve in this, so that we would draw down over 7 years, $4.2 million a year, as project milestones are completed. We would be developing, of course, the agreement with a partner agency, which refers back to the previous project, and bring on the needed resources and build the project out. And of course, we have the reference around the Slalom report and the state-of-the-art open voting, state-of-the-art project report that we just did. So, trying to find a way that this project's not started and then doesn't continue, right? Because that can happen, and I have experience with that. It's not a fun thing. So I really think that a strategy around asking for Mayor's Reserve is a way to move forward. It is different than what we've asked for in the past. So the open source voting financials, just to give you an idea of where we are right now on page 11, slide 11. This has been our funding. In the top boxes has been our funding sources. The bottom boxes show use. I've projected use for the different work streams. I've tried to keep any overhead around project management to a minimum, primarily using the funding for professional services that will get us deliverables that are measured. And we haven't done, and we're not buying any hardware, doing any operating expense. So you can see that to complete the work for the RLA, the partnership, and the disability project, we would spend down with the current funding that we have right now to having a reserve of about $100,000. So then on slide 12 is really where we start talking about the ask, the expenditures that we would have through 24. Again, I go backwards 1 year to show what our expenses have been this year, what they would be for 2021, for the budget year we're asking for. We would be asking for 4.18 from COIT for that, if we were gonna do it by year. And I'm gonna say, well, let's not do that. Let's do a mayor's set aside, and then I never have to come back for the next 7 years and ask for money. So there's something to be said for that. So we'll see. They will either say, we're gonna fund it 1.4 for the next 7 years, or they'll say, we're gonna do a mayor's set aside. Maybe they do a set aside for 50%. So there's different ways we can go. So it's kind of presented 2 ways. So that's the presentation that we'll give to COIT. The appendixes contain the presentation on risk limiting audit, which I think is excellent and shows progress and smart work. We have the partnership work that was done in Appendix 2, that Gartner did a first look for us at what exactly the VSAP system is. And again, we will be having a very detailed document from them soon. But it helps for the committee to see that we have researched the VSAP project and that we are getting quality information about that to inform the decision. And then the last bit is around the open source vote by mail, Disabilities, as the mayor's disability council letter to myself and with CC's to Director Arntz, as well as on strategies, community engagement notes. So, here we engage the community, here's what they said, here's what their concerns are. So there's lots of backup material to the request. The due diligence has been done, so I'm hoping that this request will be viewed favorably. Now, there's two ways that this can move forward. And I think many of you that are familiar with the city are aware of how this works. So there's COIT funding, so that's what I'm doing on Friday. There's also funding directly from the mayor's office, which would, we will be presenting this with the DT projects. And then there's also funding from the Board of Supervisors. Now remember, we took that funding from the Board of Supervisors in 18. They split it over 2 years, and they never have funding at the level that we need. So as much as it is important to have those conversations to get buy-in and awareness, and I will be doing that over the next month, I don't think we can expect this level of funding from the supervisors. We would need to make sure that there's either COIT request is approved or there's funding from the mayor's office. So we have the packet ready, and you have a copy. So, any questions? Yes.
Yeah, well, amazing work. From the perspective of this commission, what if anything can we do to support your budget request? So it may not be anything, but if there is, a clarification on a policy stance or resolution, maybe a declaration from our president, is there anything that you need from us tonight that can help support you?
That's a really good question. I think there is strong awareness that the commission wants the system. I don't have a letter from the commission to put in the packet, but as I think about it, is what would happen if we had that. We wouldn't be doing this if the city didn't already know that this was a desire and a direction for the commission. So, I don't want to make you write something that wouldn't, necessarily add value, but I'll think about it. If I think of something, I'll let you know.
And I guess if it doesn't really hurt, and just as a reminder, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's just a one-page letter
Okay.
that we could just address and reinstate the policy that we push, or the resolution that we push forward,
Mm-hmm.
and to show that we are strongly committed,
Mm-hmm.
or, encourage that we can still push,
Okay.
push this forward, and, anything that we can do.
Okay, and I'll put it in the packet.
Okay.
Then maybe what we can do, I'm not sure if the president needs our authority to do this, but maybe the motion would be to authorize our president to draft a letter in support of the budget request, which was just presented,
Mhm.
consistent with the commission's past resolutions in support of open source voting.
I'll just say right now, I would not support that motion. I still have questions about the budget request, but also, this is not, I feel that the ask is not really consistent with what the commission has been interested in before. It's not aligned with what TACA recommended last month. So, I would be okay with supporting open source voting in the abstract, reiterating our support in that sense, but I'm not sure I support requesting money for things that are not even a part of the voting system, which is the part that I thought we were all most interested in.
This is the bill itself. This is the money for the complete bill.
Well,
I second the motion.
Okay.
so does the motion include the request for the projects 1, 2, and 3, or is it just for project 4?
It would include, the request is going to be primarily for, the big system build. Because that is
So-
where we don't have any money.
So you're saying, so the
And
motion would,
others are work that we will be performing in support of that would be used by the elections department now.
okay, so
Can be
the,
used for the elections department now.
okay, so then the letter from the president would just be in reference to Project 4 in the budget
Yes.
request?
Yes.
Project 4, okay.
Yes, to fund the complete system to the full amount, so we have it on reserve and can have those, conversations with partners or we just build it, right?
I mean, I intended it to be a broader support of the entire budget request, but,
Yeah.
you know, if Director Durrell is satisfied with the letter supporting the open source voting system development, in other words, Project 4, that's fine with me.
When I seconded it, I also, assumed it was supporting the full budget request, and I think it would be dangerous for us to only support a piece of that.
Yeah, I agree.
The other pieces are very small, and they're there for the purpose of pushing the big piece, and I think
Yeah.
we need to support it all.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example, like I haven't had a chance to ask questions about the budget request, but the commission has passed a resolution against internet voting, and I wanna clarify whether Project 3 is, in what way is that related to internet voting? So I guess I'll just ask a question about what does Project 3 exactly mean to say that you wanna have identity management for remote voting for people with disabilities?
So one of the problems with, people with disabilities, when they have a ballot and they fill it out, they can mark it, with their devices, they may not be able to sign it. So if we can verify their identity without having them having to sign it, it's a really big deal.
So you're saying that someone would,
There would be a
um,
way to, there is a way, actually is a way, to validate their identity that they can do with their devices. It would not require them to officially sign the document.
and then they would still mail the ballot in? Using a
Yes.
vote by
I
mail
think
envelope?
we have to work through that part, but that would be yes, and I think where this comes down to is, this would allow them to be independent from somebody having to sign it for them, and Director Runtz has all those details, but, it's my understanding that that is what is, somebody can see their ballot because they watch them sign it, so.
Okay, so, because in the letter from the mayor's disability council, it says that this process requires the voter to print, sign, and mail in a hard copy of their ballot. This can be especially difficult for people with disabilities. So you're saying that this project would only be limited to the signing part and not for transmitting a ballot electronically?
Yeah, so this project would seek to simplify the steps that people with disabilities would need to take to vote. Right now, especially if people with sight disabilities, they have to actually print a ballot, a hard copy ballot out and mail it back to the department. A lot of folks with disabilities, sight disabilities, don't have printers. So they have to seek a printer to get their ballot printed out, and then they have to trust someone to put that ballot back in the envelope. And so the challenge is how can we make the voting experience simpler and secure, and also find a way to create a paper record of the vote for people with sight disabilities. And this is what Director Durrell is heading for. I think this has one of the most direct impacts, positive impacts on voting of anything that I've done since I've been in elections. I think this is a fantastic project, and I think it has real near-term benefits to a lot of people. I think basing this in open source software as much as possible takes the spirit of what TAC and this commission has been putting forward. So I strongly recommend, I support Director Durrell in doing this. And as far as the application using the internet, it might, but again, there's another question that has to be answered. So that's not something that's been resolved. And that's kind of the issue here is how do we get to the answers to these questions? So I think it's a good idea, and I fully support it.
But I'm still not clear what the project is. Like, are you saying that the ballot would be printed out, would it be printed out in front of the voter and they would have the paper, or are you saying someone else would print it out in a different location?
Those are all questions that have to be answered. So there's not a model, there's not a prototype that I can bring to the next meeting and show you. So we have to figure out what are the technologies that are available, what can answer the questions these people have to allow them to vote, and if having a paper record of their vote is one of the limitations to implementing something, we have to figure that out. We don't have the answers right now for that. And that's what's going on here with this budget request.
Okay, I just can't, I'm not seeing any scenario that doesn't cross over into internet voting. So that's, I would like to hear one scenario that's not.
If internet voting if these voters have to connect to the internet to vote, then we have to consider that. I don't think a policy by this commission should limit what people can do when it comes to voting if the city can put something forward. But again, this is a question that needs to be answered. No one has a specific model to explain to you at this moment.
Well, is there, but I mean, if you're gonna ask for, I don't know what the exact amount is for project number 3 over the different years. What's that?
$200,000.
Yeah, if you're gonna ask for $200,000, I think you'd wanna know that there's at least one method that works that doesn't conflict with state law.
I think you're missing the point here, which is that there's a goal here to provide disabled voters with the ability to vote that they're not getting right now. And the answers on how that happened are not clear. And maybe that the only answer will be that there needs to be some internet voting, but right now they don't know that. If that is the only answer, then it can be discussed as a commission. But we don't know enough about what it's like to be a disabled voter to start right now saying, well, we're not even going to fund budgeting because you haven't proposed a solution that doesn't involve internet voting. I think you are delving deeply into matters that are far in excess of this commission's jurisdiction, which is to set policies. And if some policy needs to be changed, the department can come to us and talk about that. But for us to start saying that we're not going to approve a budget because we don't like a particular solution is not something within our jurisdiction.
No, I'm asking what the project is. Under the project plan, it says design and engineer the integration between identity and access management and in-home vote by mail using accessibility software tools. I'm just trying to understand what that means.
So here's okay, so we'll go technical. If you want to go technical, we can do that. So there's software that we have today that does identity and access management. We support 30 to, oh no, the number's higher, 60,000 suppliers and vendors on the platform. We support 30,000 retirees plus 35,000 staff. Is there a way to extend that identity and access management system that would allow us to prove the identity of that voter some way? So there's all kinds of ways to do that. Some of them are software, some of them are multi-factor authentication, some of them are hardware, and we've actually looked at hardware keys that they put their thumb on the hardware key and it actually allows the application to work. So there's lots of things we're going to be able to investigate, but the goal is to try to make it so they can vote independently without assistance.
Okay, and then for the RLA part, is that, would you have an RFP to spend the money that you get from the COIT, or would that be possibly sole sourced, or if it's below a certain threshold?
We would be using in-house resources.
Oh, in-house resources. Okay. All right, well, I don't have further questions on the COIT budget request.
Okay, any other questions from the commission before we take this to public comment, and then we'll take a vote after that?
Just one other question. So, Director Gerald, you said the period, the 29 million would be over 7 to 9 years, if it were, it's a guesstimate.
Mm-hmm.
If it were a mayoral set aside, could it be accelerated?
It could be accelerated, or it could be extended depending on what would happen. That's kind of the beauty of that.
So I think that, I guess I'd just like to recommend that in the motion, or not in the motion, but whatever, if we decide on a letter that includes specifics about the advantages of such a set aside to allow acceleration of the project.
That's a good idea.
One more follow-up question there. This is the mayoral reserve, is that the terminology? Is that funding then guaranteed? It is, okay.
The set aside.
But it can't be repurposed by the mayor.
I haven't been here long enough, but I have not seen that happen.
It can happen.
It could.
It can happen, really?
Yeah.
Okay. The set-asides I've seen haven't been, used for any other purpose than what they were intended for.
Director Arts, do you have a sense of what the process would be if that funding were to be repurposed? Would DT be contacted and given an opportunity to weigh in there, or just based on when you've seen that happen in the past?
Sure, there'd be a chance to have a conversation about it, but the decision, it's competing priorities.
Yeah.
You know, so if a decision is made to put funding towards another matter, the decision's sort of been made, you can have your time to explain why the reserve should be maintained, but the city changes course, it changes course.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll take public comment.
I do have questions to Director Terrell about a couple of things we discussed last month, so I'm hoping that we can.
About last month?
Yeah, there were two topics that we discussed last month. There was the letter from OSES, and there was also the offer to support for the idea of collaborating with San Francisco from Santa Clara County.
Okay, Santa Clara has not contacted me, that's easy. The other letter, help me remember?
Yeah, at last month's commission meeting, we discussed a letter that was sent by the open source OSES, open source election solution, I think. Well, they were proposing a funding model where they would raise money from investors.
You're correct.
And let me just state it for the public. Their offer sounded pretty amazing. I mean, given the financial difficulties we're finding in terms of getting money, which is that there would be no upfront cost to the city. The city would pay no more than what we're currently paying Dominion per year. And then they would be able to eliminate the risk to the city by, through the contract. The contract could stipulate milestones that if they're not meeting those milestones, then the city would be able to withdraw from the contract. So we wanted to hear your thoughts on that letter and see if that's a possible way forward that can solve a lot of these issues.
So I reviewed the letter, I read it a number of times. I think when I receive those sorts of letters, it's really important that there is, I can see a way that the business plan would work. And to make the assumption at the start that we would use money that is paying for the Dominion system, which we have to have an election system, using that money to build something else, well, what would we do until that other something else was built? And so I didn't see that was viable. I didn't see what I would expect if a company was coming to me with a plan like this, you know, the resources they're putting in, the business plan, et cetera. So I understand that they are excited about open source voting, and I appreciate that. But I wasn't seeing enough detail in that letter. And I've talked to the gentleman who's been here before. So to me, it's not a plan, it's not a proposal. I'm not seeing a proposal that would help me evaluate its feasibility.
Yes, so then as a follow-up to that, and I agree that I think the detail is lacking, and that's one of the reasons why TAC is inviting OSCS to our meeting next month. But I think a possible way for the city to collect more information, not just from them, but from any vendor that could offer a proposal like that, would be for the city to issue an RFI, basically requesting more details along the lines you're suggesting. Is that something that you would be open to?
We already have one drafted. We're prepared to do that. We're just not prepared to do it right now.
Okay, so you are prepared.
So if we feel that that is going to yield, more information on cost and, approach, we will do that, right? And so we have been looking for partners, and we just did the open source state-of-the-art document. So now doing an RFI where people might reference other projects, we have a better basis of understanding as to whether that proposal is valid or real. So, we can consider that. Our focus right now is really understanding something that is built, which is LA, and what that means to the city in terms of usability.
I mean, because if it's a real proposal, it's kind of a game changer because it would make the whole budget request moot, so.
Well, the first premise is unrealistic, so
Well,
I kind of stopped reading that.
So you think it's not realistic, is that?
No, not right now. Okay.
Is that, so you're saying it's unrealistic even without having more details, or?
Well, the premise is that the monies that are used and dedicated to maintenance and having an election system today would be diverted to the build of the system. So where does that leave elections? They have no system. They can't not have a system.
No, my understanding of their proposal is that if they win a contract from the city, there would be an agreement that if they successfully complete development, then they would provide the system to San Francisco.
Right,
and
they want the revenue now they need the $2 million every year. That's
No.
exactly what it says.
No, but not up front though, it's only after it's delivered to the cities.
That's not what it said. No,
Well-
we're good. Well, we can have that conversation. But it was my understanding from what I have talked to the gentleman about was that he needed that revenue stream of $2 million now.
Okay,
So-
that's not the
That
impression.
wasn't my understanding.
It wasn't your understanding?
My
That's what he
understanding was
said
that they
too.
wanted a letter so that they could go raise the investment capital to actually build it, but that would not, the investment capital would not come from the city and county.
So,
I talked to the gentleman.
Yeah, we've all.
So here it is. And by the way, I spent 6 years in venture capital funds, so I understand the other side of what he's proposing.
Yeah.
What he's proposing is to get a letter or a promise to get into a contract with the city of San Francisco, right? Then he wants to take that letter to venture capitalists and say, hey, look, I got this great idea, and by the way, San Francisco is, committed to buy this thing if it works, right? And I can tell you this, you can take that proposal to any venture capital and you will laugh him out of the meeting. And the reason for that is people don't invest in contracts, they invest in people. And I talked to the gentleman, he's a fine gentleman, by the way, I really like him.
which gentleman?
I forgot his name, but I met a lot of people.
Alex?
Yes, Alex, sorry. He's got a degree in Spanish, which I speak a little bit of it, so we're able to talk about that. But one of the things I mentioned to him is how complicated it is to change an election system. In the process of doing that, I asked him, have you ever talked to anyone from an election department? And the answer was no. So he has a business plan where he wants to attack a market, right? And he wants to get funding that he will never get doing the approach he wants to take. And he wants to go into a market what he actually has not talked to anyone from an election department about how you would go about doing it. So the short answer, yes, it's a great idea, but for that to become an actual, viable project, I think it's a long way to go. Okay? Thank
Okay.
you.
And then,
Oh, I have something else, by the way, since we're talking about letters, I think when I was here in November, I believe you made the recommendation that the letter would be, of gratitude or thank you for all the people that built the RLA from Australia. What happened to that?
That was my mistake, I haven't sent it over.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries, just checking. Thank you.
so then, and my last question for Director Joe, and this is again a question I asked last month, was related to Santa Clara County. And that was, if I remember right, the civil grand jury report that came out, one of its recommendations was that the project survey all the counties to find out which ones might be interested in collaborating. I'm pretty sure that was in there. But my question was, have you reached out to any other counties in California aside from Los Angeles County to see if they're might be interested in collaborating?
No, we haven't, because, what's the first question they ask? What's the plan, what's the money, how much money do you have, and we don't have any money. So, the short of saying, well, how much money do you have, well, how much money do you have, I mean, it's kind of a difficult conversation to have. So, we now have a lot more information that we can inform a conversation with Santa Clara or any other organization. So here's the state, we can hand a partner, here's the state of other open source projects, here's the tools that could be possibly leveraged from LA, here's an analysis, here's our community engagement, and we can do more of that. So we have things we can put together that would start to support, just like we're doing this hopefully successful budget request. So those are things you have to have in place before you go and you talk to someone, or it's just a conversation. So we don't have any money to share. Oh, we do have RLA. We can share that with them. We may have the disability voters, if we figure out how to do that, we can share that with them. So there are things that we can contribute and share. Your reporter could possibly share. I mean, there's lots of things we could share with someone that would start to show that we have added value and things that do have value. But short of having funding, it's a challenge. Of course, all the work that the state did, the advocates did last year to try to get matching funds from the state, those are all good efforts that we went through and worked hard on and would have helped fund the development. And then we could have looked at partners. So if a couple of us had been able to get those matching funds, we could have pooled the money and we would have been able to move forward.
Yeah, okay. Actually, just on this point, Trent Lang has been in touch with me, and he wanted to tell me that they did meet. Actually, I think he might have emailed you about it, but
and he emailed me and asked. He emailed me on 11 o'clock and asked for a response by 12 o'clock, and I can't work that fast.
Yeah,
I
well,
they emailed till 1 o'clock.
Yeah, he met with the mayor's budget office, saying that if he could get an answer from the mayor's office as to whether they would be supportive of the matching funds, they could move forward and continue the request for the matching funds. And I think he hasn't heard back from that office yet, but I think he needs maybe like one more week he has before he has to know. So in a week or so, he's going to decide whether or not to drop this state matching funds request or to continue it based on what he hears back from the mayor's office.
And he has 1 week to do that, and that's very, very difficult.
Well, he met with them 1 or 2 weeks back, so he.
People have not put in their budget requests until the 21st. So the mayor's office doesn't even have an inkling of what the budgets are going to be from the departments.
Yeah.
So for them to say, we're going to set aside X amount of money to give to open source voting is a reach.
Okay, well, I'm just reporting what he told me.
I'm just saying the timing, I can tell you right now, isn't going to work.
Okay, so well, I appreciate your answer on the counties and the letter as well. So.
Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay.
This is just a comment that I think there should, if we vote to have a letter, that this would add weight to our ability to engage other counties, would also be something I'd recommend is included in that.
Well,
If we were to commit to a $29 million set aside, there's a motion on the table.
I understand that. I'm not sure what your comment, what you're asking me to.
The extent
add.
to which there was a substantial commitment to going forward to building this, we have more likelihood of actually defraying those costs through partnerships with other counties.
Okay. So
That's what I thought I heard from Director Gerald.
Right. I don't think that I would put, are you asking me to add that in the letter? I don't think that.
I don't know. We would always look for partnership to lower cost. We're always looking to lower cost. Remember that when you go in partnership though, you start to add complexity. So that would would be a trade-off.
The lack of funding sounds like it's a problem in terms of engagement. It's a chicken and egg problem.
Yeah. But hopefully we can work through that. Hopefully. We'll see.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and take some public comment.
Yes, Brent Turner with California Association of Voting Officials. Well, there was a lot to unpack from that, huh? There's a lot there, and I almost feel guilty for putting this burden upon all of you because I feel responsible. We did meet with the mayor's budget people, and we are hopeful there. Because there's so much there. Very quickly, when we talk about Alex, this is the fellow that is trying to help. This is not some flunky guy. This is Brian Fox's assistant. Brian Fox is probably the most knowledgeable person in the world regarding open source. Maybe Richard Stallman is more the inventor, but this is not trivial. When I look at the people that they're naming in the report, you know, half of them are just straight up fraudulent. The rest of them are suspicious. This is a dark area here. And we're talking about Microsoft partnering with different people that are pretending to be open source. And we're just throwing around conversation and words, ballot marking devices. Yeah, they're preferable, but if we can get hand-marked paper ballots, that's okay too. That's not a real big issue. The point is we get GPL open source software. It can't be what all these charlatans are gonna come forward and try to push in the final moment, which will be a licensed nuancing of the license around the open source. And these will be the same people again. Will be maybe not Philip Stark, because he is either turning state's evidence or crying out, ringing the alarm bells against verified voting, who is all part of this as well. There's so much here to unpack. I feel sorry for you, but I'm hopeful that you can see it clear, just to reduce it to some simple things, like the GPL license, that we don't fall prey to the charlatans, that we get maybe our certification fees waived, because we're gonna complete this project. And we should, as Commissioner Donaldson said, make sure that there are triggers to release monies as we expedite, because these overblown figures like $30 million, $40 million, they're not realistic. It's gonna be less than that, and it's gonna go faster if we don't fall prey to these people that will try to take this project off track, just like they did with Starvote, because Microsoft comes in, and all these good governance groups that are partnered with Microsoft, and they provide disinformation. Now, we're not saying that they're Russian allied, but we do know that they have proprietary interests that they're pushing, and it's at the expense of the national security. So a lot of this conversation that I'm hearing tonight is very disturbing, because we've come a long way, and we just need to boil it down to the basic foundational steps. Let's move it forward. I believe Linda's a good person. I don't think she's playing a trick on us, and she does have her political realities, but I'm also sensitive to Commissioner Jordanik's concerns, because by putting all our eggs in the RLA basket, if those folks mess up, then it's gonna make the whole system look bad. So I think we need to be careful how we're taking our steps, and we should stay focused on the tabulation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Soper from the Voting Rights Task Force. There's a lot to talk about here. I wanted to try to address maybe Jordanik's earliest concerns about the LA system and some issues with that, and how we would integrate it here. The LA system had, I will call, 4 problems. One was QR codes, which humans can't read. That could be mitigated with very good auditing. I'm not convinced that we have very good auditing anywhere in the country at this point. The ballot marking device issue, where the ballot on its way into the ballot box passes underneath the printer. That is less of an issue than I initially thought. Because passing underneath the printer, somebody could reprint on it, or print something else on that ballot without the voter knowing. Mr. Logan said the printer lists itself when the ballot's going to the ballot box, and he sent a schematic. That, you can hear the printer going. Now, if you don't hear the printer going, it's not working when the ballot's on with the ballot box. That's the mitigation. They had an issue with only 4 contests on the screen. And Beverly Hills sued because the guy who was the 5th candidate was on the next screen and he was given a disadvantage. And they said, yeah, well, we'll make sure he's on the first screen, but what happens to the others? And what happens if you get 135 candidates? Some of this is issue about definition of you're not allowed to scroll, but I would say pressing the next button is paging, and some other things. Can't remember one other thing, but I've seen a lot of commentary on the LA system, and there was a lot of urging of coming up with a ballot printing device, which doesn't tabulate. Somebody goes in and shows in the QR code and they get the proper ballot for their precinct or their ballot style. And it prints out as a vote-by-mail ballots that you can hand mark. Now, it's too late for LA to try to develop something like that and install it, but I think that's an option that you could add to the LA system and make the rest of it more or less work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. We do have a motion on the table. A motion by Commissioner Jung, second by Commissioner Rowe. Can we just take a roll call vote? Okay. Vice President Berhalter?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
I'm sorry, I would actually appreciate if you could reread. It's been a long time since the.
Okay, Commissioner
motion has been
Jung,
read.
can you?
Yeah, the motion was to authorize the president to draft and submit a letter supporting the Department of Technology and Department of Elections employee budget request.
So Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordanek?
Yes.
Commissioner Jung?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe?
Yes.
Myself, Commissioner Mogi, yes. So we have 7 ayes, and those ayes have it, and the motion carries. All right. I will do that by Friday morning. Item number 5, Department of...
If I may I just want to thank Director Gerald and Ross Sandroni. Close enough. Okay, for their time.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So can I just ask for the commission, what will be our follow-up for the various recommendations? Would we?
Let's, are you talking about the tech?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that so we can figure out a way to put it on the agenda for the next one, and I'll be in communication with Director Terrell on how we want to agendize it. Great. Item number 5, Department of Elections Budget Proposal, fiscal year 2020 to 21, 2021 to 2022. Discussion and possible action regarding Department of Elections proposed budget for fiscal year 20 to 21 and fiscal year 21 to 22. And your budget memo, the draft proposal is attached as well. I will have the Chair of Donaldson report back, and if any other commissioners have comments before we consider taking up action. But I would prefer if you can just give us we have the notes, so I see that it has been recommended, but if you want to add on anything else.
Maybe just to highlight some things. Without actually having in front of me the actual amount being requested, but essentially due to the elections that are coming in, and particularly the presidential election next fall, there is a spike in some budget requests, and in terms of what is anticipated, the mayor has requested that that the departments cut, there's a mandatory cut, and Director Arntz has offered that he will not be able to meet the mandatory cuts, but will take various efficiency measures. I think that's worth noting. There's $4.5 million in state matching funds that will help defray some of those costs over the next year and a half or 2 years. And that other essential matters, I think, have to do with the expansion of the voting centers with the addition of a 4th voting center, and the total cost of those voting centers is $1.4 million. I think those are sort of the highlights that I took away. The other commissioners, if they'd like to add from VOPEC, anything else?
Just mention our vote.
Yes, which is in the notes that we recommend to the full commission that we approve the budget.
Right.
I would just add one detail to Commissioner Donaldson's report, which is that one of the areas of increase is specifically attached to the need to undertake the redistricting process in the coming year. I was very impressed with the department's thinking on that, and very grateful to Director Arntz for his presentation of that information. And at the meeting, we did also discuss with the insights from Commissioner Rowe, who's been through this process before, that as a commission, we probably can't start thinking about our obligations to that redistricting process soon enough.
I did see your email, sorry, I didn't respond to it, but I did see it, I mentioned it to Deputy City Attorney to for us to review that and maybe work through a timeline together, so thank you for that.
Sufficiently packed agenda tonight.
Yeah.
I understand why I wasn't there tonight, but
Well, we will, definitely, it's been, I've already had that discussion. Great, do we have a motion to move this forward?
I will move to approve the budget.
Second.
Great. Any comments, other comments from commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question. You said the 4th voting center was 1.4 million.
The total, I believe, for the voting centers in the next fiscal year is 1.4 million. Is that correct?
Is that for 4 vote centers?
Correct.
And then, what are the 4 vote centers? Do you know the locations?
We don't know the 4th one, we haven't decided.
And can you remind what the first 3 are?
City Hall, San Francisco State University, and the Richard Lee Rec Center.
Okay. And then what are the costs for those 3 now?
So it's gonna be $1.4 million for the next fiscal year. For the cost now, about the same. I don't have a breakdown in my head, because we've been just making adjustments to have other 2 voting centers operate. But we'll expand out going forward the next fiscal year.
Oh, so you're going to use roughly the same amount of money, but have a 4th one?
Probably more, actually. We'll build out. We'll get more laptops, better technology. We'll be able to staff them better, better signage, things like that. But then, yeah, we'll add a complete 4th voting center.
With the same amount of money as we're currently using, though?
No, more money. We'll use more money.
Oh, so what was the, and this is the only question I have. So we're requesting 1.4 million for the next fiscal year, but what is the current amount?
Yeah, I don't have a breakdown.
Oh, you don't have it, okay. But it's less than that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm, as always, excited to see that we're requesting funding for community grants for better education. I see that we are requesting $250,000 per fiscal year, which is the same amount that we requested during our last, to fund our last community grant program. I'm wondering if there's any openness to requesting an increased amount of funding and seeing how that goes over, especially given that we're now hearing a lot of interest from, the San Francisco Foundation, as you know, and possibly matching that funding.
We put the 250 in the budget since we have, there's a comparison to .2, that's why we put 250. What amount are you, we don't have an amount to go beyond 250 from our past experiences, so.
Right, I mean, I think, and unfortunately, the timing is not great, because we'll discuss this more with Myra at our meeting in March, but I think that I have heard interest in a $1 million partnership, with half of that coming from the city and half being raised privately. So I think asking for 500,000 would be, I think that there'd be an appetite for that on the partnership side. But I realize that's double what we've asked for before. It's a
Right.
big chunk.
We could put 500 in here, because we have to submit the budget next week, on the 21st, so once we input it to the city system, we can't make any more adjustments, so.
If you're open to that, yeah, I certainly think there's an appetite for it from the foundation side.
Yeah, understood. The only thing is we have to have a basis for that additional amount. So, potentially, when we meet on the 23rd, if there's ideas that, also is it within the department's scope to monitor, administer grants at large and increase in organizations. But for now, those questions don't have to be answered. We put the $500,000 in, which will bump up the total of everything that we put forward so far, which will bump up the total that BOPEC approved by 250. But certainly we can do that.
And respect, I certainly don't feel it's my role to at all dictate or even propose a specific amount. I more want to, you know, we were going to bring that number up at the meeting that we were scheduled to have next month, and just timing wise, I figured I should raise it now in case you did want to ask for a greater amount in this funding proposal. But I definitely defer to you and the department on the final number that you should ask for.
Let me talk to the mayors, our budget analysts, and see how they want to handle that.
Yeah.
Because for us, we have to go back and change all these forms and everything. So if we can have that conversation, have it inputted, and have a conversation, and have input from the mayor's office, it might be the way to go.
Okay, thanks.
A question for the city attorney, we are supposed to approve a budget, is the department allowed to then make changes after our vote? Or we don't really know what our approval means?
Yeah, I have a similar concern. I mean, I think that we have to approve the budget, and then any subsequent changes would be unapproved, so I share your concern.
So I feel a little concerned about voting for increasing it right now, but I'm not sure if you have the information that you need in order to increase it, and whether that would impact other priorities. I don't know a lot about that. I also think it's a good question, and it's a good goal, and it's a good use of money. But I'm not really sure what we should do right now, given that you don't have time for us to have the next meeting and.
We're significant time constraint, yeah.
Sure.
So, given the department's time constraint to make that submission, obviously it would be preferable, this was raised earlier.
We did discuss I think at a general level at our last meeting, possibly increasing the amount that we requested from the city, but yeah, we didn't have an in-depth follow-up conversation about it.
Can we make, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to come up with a creative solution here. Can we make a vote that gives the director discretion to increase that up to 500 if he determines that that's in the department's best interest?
I don't believe that that's contemplated, so I wouldn't feel comfortable authorizing that.
I just feel like, and I know that, you know, I know that we on a commission have always approved the budget in February, and so if there were conversations that were going to happen about this kind of things, I wouldn't, you know, I am a little uncomfortable making this recommendation today. And while I know it's for a really good use, if it's gonna delay a whole other process, then that just does make me feel really uncomfortable knowing that this is kind of the timeline, and I know that sometimes doesn't work the same timeline as foundations and other things, and so it is unfortunate. I also know that, I hope that there can then be flexibility on the foundation side.
Sure, yeah, well,
Yeah,
sure,
so-
let me speak for that. Well, and my follow-up question then is, and this is just my ignorance about city budgeting, so I apologize, but, will there be any opportunities between now and this time next year to make modifications to the budget for 2021, 2022?
Yeah, so the city's on a 2-year budget cycle.
Right.
So that's why these forms you see, BY plus one, so BY plus one is the next fiscal year. So yeah, the city can adjust the amount for the next fiscal year.
Right, so,
To go with
so
it.
in theory, there could, should a partnership develop with the foundation, we could then, request additional funding.
For the next
for
fiscal
the-
year.
For the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
so we're not, yeah, I just wasn't sure if we were locking ourselves into this request through the end of 2022.
That's the idea, but no, these numbers change through time.
Okay.
But so we won't make a change now, but I will contact the mayor's office and have that conversation.
That sounds great,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, can we take, public comment on this item?
Yes, we hope that Director Arns gets the money that he needs to operate properly for the department. We also hope that we get our budget request in, that you just mentioned. And because I'm not sticking around, I just wanted to put an add-on to my previous comment. Everybody that I'm seeing in that report, there was no mention of the New Hampshire open source voting system, which is the only deployed voting system that utilizes open source in the United States. The fact that's omitted from the report is really not a good sign, because I think maybe that in Garner, what they tell us to do here in San Francisco, Los Angeles is in complete collapse as a voting system right now, because they didn't listen to what the open source pioneers told them to do. They ran off. That's what can happen here, and I'm very sorry to tag on like that. And with that, thank you all very much for your work on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. We have a motion to approve the budget by Commissioner Rowe, seconded by Commissioner Donaldson or John. They both said second, same time. And, okay, so let's just take a quick roll call vote on that. Vice President Bernholtz?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordanik?
Yes.
Commissioner Jung?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe?
Yes.
And myself, Commissioner Murphy, yes. That's 7 ayes, the motion carries. Okay, so we have approved the budget. Let's move on to item number 6. This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force complaint, number 20018, records retention policy and index of records. Discussion and possible action regarding Commission's response to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force complaint, number 20018, the Department of Elections record retention policy and index of records, and Election Commission's record retention policy and departments, and then the Elections Commission records retention policy and index records. So we've had a couple, myself and the Deputy City Attorney has had a couple conversations. This is in your packet as well. I did respond. The response is also included in here. Thank you for doing all that, Deputy City Attorney. And I have submitted it within the 5-day kind of required time period. We did review, and I did did reach out to some of the commissioners about if they knew about our retention policy, and just wanted to open it up to the whole commission. Since I have only been here for about 3 years, or just a little less than 3 years, and just wanting to make sure that we're clear, that there is clarity within the commission, or if you know from the Elections Commission standpoint about our retention policy. I just wanted to kind of bring that up to the commission Has that discussion been made, not from the department side, but from the Elections Commission side? And if anyone has any comments on that, I wanted to kind of bring that up today.
I could say what I know, from what I can recollect, and I've been on the commission for 6 years, I have never heard anything about a policy from the commission. But I do have a suggestion that it's possible that one of our previous secretaries started work on an index of records for the commission. And so I would suggest that someone maybe check the secretary's computer to see if there might be something that was in progress.
Yeah, I was gonna go into that, but I wanted to first ask that question about the retention policy. So if no one, I just wanna make sure that if you knew about it or didn't know about it, that we do have that discussion here.
I did not know
Okay.
specifically.
Well, there's one other comment I wanna make. I do recall like a few secretaries back that this was Secretary, I actually don't remember the name, but I remember they sent some of our documents to the city's archive. So I think we have at least some archived commission documents. And is that true? Does the city have like a remote archive where people can send hard copies of documents?
No, each department, no, I don't know how it works for a commission, but each department's responsible for archiving their records. So there's no like department or city depository that we.
Oh, there isn't?
No.
Then when the secretary said that she had sent some documents to be archived, do you know what she might be referring to? No? This was like 4 years back. Okay, well.
So it sounds like.
A box in our warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we don't have a retention policy, and as you can see there, we did attach the Department of Elections retention, records and retention, and destruction policy. I'm wondering, Deputy City Attorney, if we are allowed to amend this department to be able to add our commission retention policy, or is this gonna have to be a separate one?
I did confer with my colleagues in the city attorney's office to see how this issue is handled for commissions that oversee a department, and typically where you have this dynamic where you have a department that was overseen by a commission, they share a policy. And so the recommendation from my colleagues internally is that the commission vote to revise the department's existing policy to include specific provisions related to the commission's retention of records. So one clarifying point that was sort of raised was because the commission does have its own secretary, that the policy, once it's changed, just expressly state that it's the commission's responsibility to maintain their own records, so that there's not any ambiguity that it could never be misinterpreted that election staff would suddenly then assume the burden of maintaining the records and keeping the index up to date. So our recommendation is that we present the commission with our office's assistance. I'm glad to help with this, and in working coordination with the elections department, revise this policy, present it for consideration by the commission, and once it's approved, it actually needs to be approved by the commission and then signed off on by various signatories, including like some sort of, it's quite randomly, like the department, I think like Spurs, or there's various strange departments actually need to sign up for the records retention policy. I'll check the admin code again, but we'll make sure that it has all the required signatures and that it's properly adopted, and then there's not this question of, well, the commission doesn't have a retention policy any longer.
Well, just one suggestion, which is, none of us here is full-time, and the simpler and more foolproof, the better. And so while this Department of Elections record retention instruction policy by itself does not seem complicated, I would suggest that to the extent that there's one that's proposed to be applied to us, that it be super simple.
Well, what would be applied would be essentially just like a paragraph within the department's existing policy that says, as to commission's records, the commission will do X, Y, Z, and the commission maintains exclusive responsibility to do that. So it won't be the full breadth of everything that a full-time department would be expected to do.
And then with that, if to do that, that means that the Department of Elections record retention retention schedule with specific record types would apply to us?
No, you would also prepare your own index of records, and so that would be a separate document.
So this is considered an index?
Correct. I'm not sure if that.
The one that, in the agenda packet is
Yes.
titled Department of Elections Record Retention Schedule?
Correct, this is the Department of Elections
Yes.
current index. And so the commission's record would not be added to the index, we would prepare a separate index for the commission, but the policy itself would be shared.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're talking about the policy and then we'll move forward. Well, next step will, yeah. I'm trying to piece together this because that's get us confusing.
Sort of
I know it's related, but.
And just from a process perspective, the document, is it going to be posted, is this a document that the department is gonna have the master copy of? Because do we?
I haven't thought about who retains sort of the original version of the record, I can look into that. I mean, as a practical matter, regardless of how it's retained, the commission frankly should have authorized and signed off on the department's record retention policy and hasn't done that. So that's one issue that we're gonna correct when we go through this exercise. And then as a practical matter, it's going to apply to both and it'll be very specific as to how it applies to the commission.
Okay, and then, all right.
Okay, should we? Okay, and then we wanna, wait, first, I just wanna make sure that the director, you're okay with that amendment to be added in to your department? I know
Yeah.
you two have talked, I just wanna make sure that you are.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine, as long as we're explicit that the commission's
Yeah.
in charge of records.
Okay. And then the index of records, that is something that Commissioner Jordan did bring up, and we should assign a commissioner to at least explore the secretary's, that computer, and records to see what has been done. Is that the recommendation that you're making?
Yeah, I think to clarify, there's sort of two components. We actually need to prepare a document, that is the index of records, and as you'll see from this example, this is not a line-by-line reflection of every single record in possession. This is based on categories. So the actual preparation of the index document itself is not that complicated. It just needs to conform with what the administrative code says in terms of which categories of documents the commission has to retain forever, or for 5 years, or for 2 years, et cetera. So then that document basically serves as a legend, and then you would have a commission secretary follow the legend and retain the commission's records consistent with that. And so that's that second part is the laborious part that sort of seems more daunting, and where we need someone from the commission to come into the Department of Elections, sit down at the computer and see what, if anything, has been done historically to try to keep those records organized. Just to get an accounting sort of what the status is, if anything, on that. And then ideally, once you hire a commission secretary, that person can implement, right? So they'll have the records retention policy, they'll have the index, they'll sit down and they'll keep records consistent with how both of those documents direct them to do that.
Okay.
Can this wait until we have a commission secretary?
Well, the additional factor here is you have a complaint from the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force now pending on this issue. So there's going to be, at some point in the near future, a hearing on the subject, and a finding one way or the other about where the commission is at on this question of whether they're in compliance with the administrative code, and then an order directing the commission to act or not act. So, that complicates things when it comes to waiting as a practical matter. But, you know, the complaint, as it appears, doesn't say, the complaint is limited to, we went on the website that the city administrator makes available for index of records, and various city commissions and departments, including elections, had nothing on it. So compliance with that complaint would be satisfied by just including the index of records, not having to go through this other part of sort of figuring out where are we at on our records. So maybe that subsequent part could wait. I think the priority is making sure that We get an index of records, which we can't really do without updating the retention policy because the two speak to each other.
So today, I think we would like to at least, move forward with having, which deputy city attorney has kind of, in her office has decided to like help us at least make that amendment, to actually have her do that and bring the amended policy to the board, I mean, to the commission at the next meeting. And is the other recommendation to at least go to the commission secretary, have a commissioner go, assign a commissioner to go and to look through the document?
Yeah, because maybe there might, in fact, be an index of records, like this spreadsheet might already exist somewhere on that desktop.
And just report back.
And if
see-
you find it, then have it, and
have
that's
it,
something
yeah.
that can be submitted to
Yeah.
the task force, proactively. We don't have to then wait for them to issue a notice of hearing, because we can supplement the answer. So it'd be additional information the task force would be interested in having.
So which commissioner would like to go to the secretary? Peter?
I mean, I said I'd be willing to do it, but I don't have to do it. If someone else wants to do it, they can.
I don't know, there's that many willingness coming out, so if you are still willing,
Sure.
thank you. And then I think we have to pass a motion to have you, or is it fine that you're just gonna? Yeah, we do.
I mean, you can vote on it if you
I
want.
don't know, it's fine, right, we don't have to.
We don't need to, okay.
Okay. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I have to leave.
okay, Commissioner Rowe is excused, at 8:28 PM. Okay,
So I have a couple other questions on this topic.
okay, go for it.
So, number one, was this complaint also filed against the Department of Elections?
The department was not expressly named, but the
Oh, they weren't.
department did, sort of just in the spirit of cooperation, respond to the extent that there might have been any ambiguity around service. Sometimes what will happen is a complainant will name the commission, and they'll think that by doing so, they're invariably naming the department. So because of that ambiguity, the department went ahead and just responded, and they are in compliance, because as you see, they have a policy and they have an index, and they provided that index to the city administrator, so.
Okay.
But they are not expressly named it, and after they responded, the complainant replied back and said, I haven't named the department expressly, it's just commission.
Okay. And then my last question was, is there a chance that that we might have to go to a hearing between now and the next commission meeting from the
I think that would be
Sunshine Task Force?
unlikely,
Okay.
but at some point there will be hearing, and someone from the commission will be required to attend.
Yeah, so the reason I'm asking is, would we have to authorize the president to go, or could they just go on their own for us? if
I
we're
don't
called?
believe there needs to be any sort of motion to authorize her to go. She has her, she's president, and that
Yeah.
would be part of her just standard duties.
Okay.
I think that, we'll receive a notice of hearing, so we'll have some level of notice before it's set, and it would be, but I would presume, I don't know exactly how much notice they give, but I would expect it to be at least 30 days. And I would be surprised if they did it even within 30 days.
Okay, that's all, thanks.
Yeah, we probably have a couple months.
Yeah, so I'm looking here, it says in the City and County of San Francisco, in the San Francisco Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, anonymous versus, and it does name the Department of Elections and the Elections Commission, no? I mean, that's what I'm
On the summary page,
I'm looking at the complaint.
Well, the department's already responded, so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
in
Well,
any
but
event.
here's the thing, is that the screenshots in the complaint.
So let me clarify,
Yes,
sorry,
thank
it's
you.
8:30. The elections department was not served, that's my clarification. So no one ever served the department, so although they were named, you have to actually make service to get the wheels going, right? So
Okay.
elections was not served, you all were served, so because I was advised that they might have thought that service on the commission effectively also served the department, and so because of that potential ambiguity, I said, go ahead and just answer, the department happily did so, so there was no issue, so thank you for correcting me.
So what corrects this?
What do you mean, what
It
corrects?
says index to records, elections blank, and I'm looking on the
Yes.
city site for other departments.
Yes.
Like I looked at the assessor's department, and it has a long list of
Yep.
things. The one that says election is still blank on.
So what you
the
don't have in
city's-
your packet is the elections response, which said, here is a PDF of the document that's provided in your agenda packet. And it also included, and Director Ronson can say this, but I can just say it for him. He advised, we have provided this index to the city administrator for their use to upload that site. The site that, the page you're, for the recording, Commissioner Donaldson is holding up the web printout of the index of records page, which shows that the elections commission is blank for them, or the elections department is blank for them. So, because that web page is not controlled by elections, they are reliant on the city administrator to
No, I
upload
understand.
that document.
Thank you.
And so
Thank
we're
you for
waiting,
clarification.
we're waiting for a response, so it's just a practical consideration, waiting for a response from the person in charge at the administrator's office to confirm, okay, yeah, we've got it on site.
Great, thank you.
Great, I think that's, okay, so I think we know what we're gonna do for next steps. I see no public comment, but I'm still gonna call for public comment for this item, seeing none. We'll move on to item number 7, Commissioner's Report. Commissioners report on topics not covered by another item on this agenda, meeting with public official, oversight and observation activity, long-range planning for commission activities in areas of study, proposed legislation which affects elections. Any commissioners report?
Yes, I was able to meet with Myra Chow. She's a senior director at the San Francisco Foundation. I mentioned this at our last meeting, but I was speaking with her to gauge high-level interest in the formation of a partnership between the foundation and the Department of Elections to provide grants to community organizations for voter education, specifically in low turnout communities in the city. She was very enthusiastic about that possibility. She's very excited about the potential there for a strong partnership. Spoke about potentially being able to bring, both be able to advocate to the city for funding for these community grants, and also possibly be able to bring in significant private funding from donors to the current donors to the foundation, and possibly bringing in new donors. And then being able to use foundation funding to match city funding. So there's an opportunity there. Myra and I and a few other people will be meeting with John and maybe additional members of his team next month, once the March election madness dies down a little bit, to kind of get that conversation going and see what opportunities there might be for a partnership. Also recognizing though that I'm stepping down from the commission, so I'm happy to stay involved in that conversation so long as it's useful and help make connections and keep the conversation going. But it's really exciting to see that there's so much enthusiasm in the community for a potential partnership like that. And just on that line, I also met with the executive director of San Francisco Rising, which works on building political power in kind of disadvantaged communities here in the city. And she just reiterated there's a big appetite in her organization and similar organizations for partnership with, further partnership with the department to serve the community's information about San Francisco elections and increase turnout. And that San Francisco Rising has already received a grant from the department for, they received one of those RCB grants in the last cycle, and they said it was very helpful. And so they're just eager to continue that relationship. That's my update, yeah.
Thank you for that advocacy.
Could I ask a couple questions about that? So with what you mentioned earlier, there's the chance that they could do a 500K matching grant?
I don't want to speak out of turn. That was
Oh.
something we had discussed. It's certainly not something that the foundation has committed to.
Yeah, of course. So my question then would be, would it also be a possibility if we're not able to have 500K allocated this year that they can match what is currently allocated, or would it only be for the increased amount?
I think that that's certainly a possibility. They just, Myra was speaking about the foundation's desire to kind of go big or go home.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but
Okay.
they also understand that that sometimes you need a proof of concept or a pilot period, that sort of thing.
And then what is the San Francisco Foundation's total budget?
I don't know that off
You
the
don't
top of my head.
know? Okay.
It's
Okay.
many millions of dollars.
Okay, so, and the reason I'm asking
Or
is.
budget, sorry, in terms of the funding that they are allocating.
Yeah, okay, so the reason I'm asking is, and just because this has been such a topic tonight, do they know that the open source voting project is something that the city is
I
trying
can
to?
speak directly with
Okay.
Myra Chow about that.
Okay, well, if their mandate is very broad, it might be worth, if they have that as one of their focus areas, that could be potentially something else that they could match, but only if it's within their scope.
Okay, she and I are speaking regularly, so I can certainly, talk with her about the fact that that's a priority of the commission and the department.
Okay, it sounds like you're doing great work, so it's cool. Yeah.
Any other commissioners report? Any public comment? Seeing none, public comments closed. Item number 8, director's report.
So here's a brief snapshot of what we're doing. I did, Commissioner Bernhold, on the election security for the version 5.10.
Yes.
So I did review the email, and there's not like substantial changes as far as security is concerned. Most of the changes have to do with the touchscreen unit, the ballot marking device. There's some menu options that no longer appear on the screen, so someone could like turn off the system mid-vote and some other menu options, but there's nothing like firewalls or things like that going on with this version.
Okay.
So it's very much like 5.2.
Thank you.
And then a question on the number of new voters at the voting center. I think you asked me that at the San Francisco State University voting center.
One of us on that,
Yeah, so we had about 156, I think, new voters, first-time voters at state. And I think the total, if I remember correctly, was 346. So it was just over half of the voters at the state were new voters.
Interesting.
And you expect that at a university,
Right.
but you won't, and you might get that for November at Richard Lee. But Joseph Lee, Joseph Lee, that's why I stumbled out. But you won't get that every election, because you'll run out of those first-time voters. But for the schools, it's something that probably will happen ongoing. That's why we chose state the first one.
Yeah.
And there was, and your prizes for the open source. So I contacted the mayor's office, and they contacted the controller's office, and maybe Director Durrell's got a different experience, but no one really had experience with a department providing prize money, and the idea of the city putting out a contest and awarding prize money for a product the city would use, to them fell under contracting rules. It wouldn't be something that would go under an award for a contest. So the only prizes that the city, that they were aware of, grant, would be like gift cards. But just like $25 gift cards. And even to get those gift cards, if the city use those as cash, essentially. And we don't use cash. So for us to bring gift cards into the department to award would be a huge process, and that's not something I really want to do. But there's not a existing program that I'm aware of, that people are aware of, the mayor's office and the controller's office that I spoke to, for having an open source development contest for which we award cash prizes. So also there's been 2 changes with election rules recently. Well, one was just, I think this week, Governor Newsom just signed, allowing people to change their party affiliation at polling places or voting centers and vote a regular ballot, not vote a conditional voter registration ballot. So we've made, it's noted in my director's report, all the changes we had to go through in a very short amount of time to implement this new change in law. Then also another change that happened recently is that voters, if they're a vote by mail voter and they go to a polling place and have their vote by mail ballots, but not their vote by mail return envelope, in the past, law required them to vote provisionally. Now, if they surrender those ballots, they can be given a regular ballot at the polling place or at the voting center. So those are 2 changes that we've
What bill number was that? That's interesting.
That one, I don't know.
Was it passed like as emergency bill like the other one, or?
No, it's, I mean, it's actually, to be honest with you, it's existing law that the Secretary of State's office changes interpretation.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. And then, so far as turnout is concerned, it's been tracking more last November up to this point, which I think November was a 42% turnout. We're geared up for a 65, 75% turnout. So if you've been to City Hall and you see the voting center, we've got a very robust voting center for not a lot of voters at this time. What that means for a presidential primary, we're going to have a lot of last minute voters. And so next week we're going to have a lot of volume coming through in the vote by mail and also on the voting side. So then election day at the polls, I think we're busy as well.
Did you say 65%?
Yeah, we expect. That's the average for the last 3 presidential primaries, so it's nothing we created.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a couple. First, thank you for looking into the cash prize thing. That's real interesting. I would say, from what I was thinking of it wouldn't be something that the city would actually use because it would be more like kind of scrapped together by people. So I think it would be more, I think it would be qualify more as an outreach effort around the project. And I don't know if saying the city wouldn't be intending to use the software would change anything about the controller's opinion. But
I don't think that criteria helps your cause, I think.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, it's good to know. It was worth finding out. And then, thank you for, I know you posted some of the data sets.
Yeah, so we did the 3 data sets that Carl requested, so they're all posted now.
Oh, the additional ones from my most recent email, or was this?
I think so. I think, so the data file with the party affiliation by precinct is also.
Oh, great. Okay, great. And then, so there's one more data question that we had because it affects the scheduling of our next TAC meeting. And we were wondering when you thought the 0 reports would be ready for the election, because we wanted to work on the results report.
They should be up already.
Oh, the results, sorry,
Yeah.
the 0 reports, yeah.
Yeah, they should be up to E29, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then last, I was wondering if maybe you could just speak about, I made a suggestion about the voting portal regarding.
Yeah, we modified, we made some modifications to that as well.
Okay, so if someone currently is not listed as receiving a ballot that has the presidential contest, they'll see the notice when they first navigate to it? Right. Okay, great. Thanks.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for your report. I know it's going to be a busy couple weeks.
I'm sorry, I do have one question. Just Director Arntz, sorry, I just swallowed. 2,800 poll workers have already begun training classes. How is this looking? Are you anticipating any shortage, or is it?
I looked at the numbers today. Right now we're on solid ground, but we always need bilingual poll workers. And if people have been inspectors, if they're interested in inspector, it's always be standby. But right now, I think for the most part we're staffed for the election. But you have cancellations, and all that. But so we're still recruiting. So right now we're in solid ground. I don't have exact numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Not that we have issues with emails with you, but I was supposed to bring this up during commissioners' reports. I'm going to connect that. We've had emails issues in general with SF, our own emails. So Deputy City Attorney has provided me, at least, I don't know if
You can circulate.
I'll circulate it to the rest of the commission, so we can reset our SF.gov email. It's up to us to call the IT team and to work with them directly, but they'll send us the kind of the instructions. The issue has just been, I don't think I've had issues with Director Arntz, but it's with the Deputy City Attorney. She has to call and then text and then email and everything. So it's been really hard to get in contact or even get simple information, and I think that's been the same. I actually did receive some of her emails as well, and so I just wanted to kind of nudge every commissioner if they have the time to kind of fix the email. And it's also important that we use our official emails. We should not be using, even if it's a designated Gmail. There are some, materials that do get sent directly to us, and also it's important that we do use the official emails to correspond, official business. So, is that what?
That's what I was about to say.
I got the look. So I just wanted to say that in the director's report. Thank you, and so, cool.
And the passwording is much better now for the mail system.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if you go on there and, if you've already got that, but the IT, service is very good, actually, for the city.
Right. All right, so no public comment, public comment's closed. Thank you, Director Arndt, for your report. We'll move on to item number 9 on this public employee appointment and hiring class 1446 elections commission secretary. Discussion and possible action regarding the hiring of a commission secretary. The discussion may be held in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54957B and San Francisco Administrative Code 67.10B. I would like to just quickly start this conversation, especially in lieu of this Sunshine Ordinance Task Force complaint. I do want to note before obviously we have, it was stated that, this is kind of pushing us to have a commission secretary to start, tracking the index of records and, start doing all that work too. But on top of that, the Deputy City Attorney's Office has been supporting us with not just drafting the agenda and working with me directly as well, but also printing out materials, coming in early, opening the doors for us and doing all that other work that, normally a commission secretary is supposed to be doing. And so, first of all, thank you so much for doing that, and for you and for from Deputy City Attorney Shen and your colleagues for helping us. I think that is really important for us to really move forward with trying to hire someone. I know that it's just been a long process. It's no one to blame, even though I am sort of blaming myself for this, but it's just been taking a long time. I would like to make a suggestion that we do move forward. Even it's gonna still take time, that we just go through the Department of HR and ask them to post it and go through that process. I think this kind of trial period of seeing if we can recruit our own for the last 4 to 5 months has not been successful, and first to acknowledge that as well. And so I would like to kind of bring that up to the commission, seeing how each of you would feel that. I would be happy to reach out to the head of the department, to the Department of HR and start that process and nudging the department to post it, and then make sure that, just to follow up with the process to get that going. But I just really feel like we need to kind of move this along. So that would be my recommendation. I think we would need to kind of go through a vote for that if that's something that the commissioner would like to go through. But
did we ever find out whether the employee could also work in the Department of Elections, so that could be a full-time employee?
No, it's not, that's not an option, they can't do that.
Can you clarify this question?
Yes, President Mogi had a thought at one time that since this is a 20-hour a week job, whether the other 20 hours could potentially be in the Department of Elections, since the budget was in the Department of Elections. And it sounds like that's a no.
Can you explain the reasoning behind that?
There's a prohibition that basically says if you do the commission job, that's your job.
Okay.
So unfortunately, that's express.
Okay.
The alternative would also, even if that wasn't there, I mean, as a practical matter, it would be difficult, right? You have this single person, they're walking into the Department of Elections, it's like, which hat are you wearing today, John?
Yep.
Who's your boss, who's not, just.
Okay, and then can I make a comment that references, without naming names, a candidate that we previously, so I guess we can also go into closed session, but I know we were considering a candidate in the past, and we had decided to continue looking, but
if that is something the commissioner would like to take into consideration, we'll go into closed session, but I am actually, still, knowing that I'm making the recommendation that we do post it,
Okay,
so.
I just wanted to throw it out there, okay.
Do we need a vote?
Do we need a vote?
You should vote.
We should vote, yes.
So moved.
Second.
Who moved?
So the motion is for me to move forward with the Department of HR to post the commission secretary posting, and I will be the one, the point of contact. Great, let's take a roll call vote on that.
Public comment.
Oh, public comment, seeing none, public comment is closed. Vice President Bernhold,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordanik,
Yes.
Commissioner Jung,
Yes.
myself, Commissioner Mogi, yes, and Commissioner Rose is not here, so with 6 ayes, the motion carries. Great, and then we have agenda items for future meetings, discussion and possible action regarding items for future agendas. Anything that you would like to have discussion, future agendas?
I had noted that Commissioner Jordanik asked about following up on the tax.
Yep.
Other questions?
Thank you.
And one of the discussion points at BOPEC was whether or not we need to, I believe last month we had an informal discussion about what would or would not be referred and how we would go about referring anything to BOPEC. I don't know if we need any further discussion on that in future meetings, just question.
Okay, I think that was more of, I think there were just certain things that always need to get approved through BOPEC, which is the voter.
Well, I think it has to,
the-
remember that all that BOPEC does is recommends to the full commission.
Right. So, I think.
So
what you're-
I believe we can do without the BOPEC entirely if you wanted to.
Right, yeah. So if we are going to be scheduling a BOPEC meeting, I think, just let us know what and for what item, and then we can discuss that if we
Okay.
want to hear that at a full commission or at a BOPEC.
Works for me.
Great. Any public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. All right.
Oh, final discussion
This is
point
like
that
the
I
thing
forgot to
today, I think,
mention,
yeah.
so, just a reminder that if you do need assistance from our office for any reason, that you need to contact myself or my colleague Andrew Shen directly, and that, you should not be contacting city attorney staff and delegating projects to them.
Or always CC me, and I'm happy to follow up, or just contact me, because I can support as well. And I think everyone does have my cell phone, so you're always welcome to text me so I can reach out to the deputy city attorney or anyone else from the department. I think it helps a lot with communication.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it is now 8:55 p.m., meeting adjourned.
Director